Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Whenever it is time to speak publicly, I think a lot of people can resonate with the, what if nobody's there? But simultaneously, what if everyone is there? Feels a little bit like almost everyone is here this morning. So I definitely prefer that than there being nobody. So thank you so much for being here. So please, take a breath with me. And we can just let the beauty of all the sounds that we have heard this morning linger between us just a moment longer. As many of you know, I wear a few different hats here in our UUCA home. On any given day, especially a Sunday, I'm a fellow member sitting out in the seats with my family, or perhaps I'm working behind the scenes on our board of trustees, or maybe sometimes I'm standing on this side and I get to be the lay leader. And I'm also Muslim. And for me, walking through those sanctuary doors every week isn't a compromise between two worlds. It is a complete and seamless integration. Sometimes people ask me how I square those two identities. No worries, no one in here. How do you bridge Islam and Unitarian Universalism? The truth is, my heart doesn't feel a bridge. It feels a home. When you hear us sing Spirit of Life, when you hear love at the center, or when we speak of the interconnected web of all existence, when we talk about quantum or ultimate consciousness as the foundation of our reality, not matter, pointing to how the subatomic pieces of our world defy physical barriers, teleporting through empty space just to bind water molecules together. When we talk about the energy underlying and prodding on evolution, my heart also hears one word: Allah. Do you know what Allah means? The media probably didn't bother to tell you, but Al-Ilah, the God. It is not in reference to a special, specific deity. In fact, Christians and Jewish people who live in the Middle East, who speak Arabic or Farsi or Pashto or many of the other languages in that region, use the word Allah the same way that we here may use the word God. To me, these are not competing ideas. They aren't different gods or conflicting doctrines. They are simply different dialects of the very same universal language. They are all fingers pointing at the exact same moon. Luna, Marah, Qamar, Tol, Lua. And that brings me back to the ancient words that we heard in our reading. The first short surah that was recited, surah meaning chapter, Surah Al-Ikhlas, holds a very special place in the Islamic tradition. There is a famous saying that this brief four-line surah accounts for 1/3 of the entire Quran. In traditional circles, people often frame this surah as an old theological debate about the nature of God. But when you strip away the dogma and you look at it through the eyes of a mystic, something far deeper reveals itself. It is considered 1/3 of the holy text, not because it wins an argument with Christianity or any other faith that believes in multiple gods, but because it defines the foundational fabric of reality itself. There is only one. Absolute unicity. Absolute wholeness. When we look out at the world, our eyes show us separation. We see me and you, us and them, human and nature, sacred and profane. But Al-Ikhlas reminds us that this multiplicity, this fragmentation, is the illusion. Oneness is the underlying truth. There is only one ocean. We are just the waves thinking we're separate from the water. And once you realize that there is only the one, a very urgent question arises for how we live our lives on any given day. If there is only one ultimate reality, whether we can perceive all its layers or not, what are all these other things we keep giving our power to? What are the other names we worship? Initially, I thought I understood an Islamic concept called shirk. If you look it up in a textbook or ask a scholar, shirk is usually translated into English as idolatry, the sin of setting up partners with God or worshiping multiple deities. And for most of my life, because I had a Christian upbringing, I had a pretty standard surface level understanding of what idolatry was. And I thought, okay, I don't worship stone statues, I don't pray to golden calves, so I'm good. Moving on. But then, not too long ago, it hit me like a lightning bolt. It was like a sudden download from the universe, and it shifted everything into focus, and I didn't even realize that everything was blurry. I realized that shirk isn't an ancient, obsolete warning about primitive idols. It is a profound psychological and spiritual diagnostic tool for right now. And here's the thing. You don't have to identify as Muslim for this to matter to you. You don't even have to consider yourself a traditional religious believer. If you practice mindfulness, if you care about human psychology, if you are simply trying to navigate this messy reality of being a conscious human being in modern society, this concept applies directly to your life. Because if we go back to our starting point, that there is only one ultimate reality, then what does it actually mean to commit idolatry? It means taking something small, temporary, and conditional, and treating it as if it were absolute. It means giving ultimate power over our minds, our hearts, and our actions to something that is fundamentally fleeting. Idolatry in the 21st century doesn't happen at a stone altar, usually. It happens every single morning when we aren't paying attention. Ask yourself, what are the names we worship when we get lost in the day? We worship the name of productivity. We bow at the altar of our to-do lists, believing that our inherent worth as a human being is tied to how much we can produce, check off, and optimize before we fall asleep, only to wake up and do it all over again. Who taught us that? We worship the name of anxiety. We take a single hypothetical worst-case scenario about tomorrow and bring it into the present moment and let it rule over our chest, our breathing, and our interactions with the people we love. We worship the names of control, of ego, and even political righteousness. We build tiny, fragile towers out of being right, and we defend those towers as if our very existence depends on them. This is the modern trap of shirk. It is not about theology. It is about attention. It is about our human forgetfulness. Because to remember is to worship, and to forget is shirk. When we take tiny, anxious, fragmented pieces of our week, a stressful email, a moment of road rage, a fear of the future, and we zoom in on it so tightly that it fills our entire field of vision, we have made it our God. We have taken a temporary ripple on the surface of the ocean and treated it as if it were the whole of water. In that moment, we lose sight of the oneness. We forget that we are a part of an infinite, resilient, interconnected web. We surrender our peace to a small, demanding idol that can never love us back. So how do we break the spell of these modern idols? How do we stop giving our power away to these fleeting, demanding names? For me, the antidote, in part, is a beautiful mindfulness practice centered around the Asma al-Husna, the 99 names of Allah. Now, when I say 99 names, I don't mean 99 separate deities. Think of them as 99 different facets of a single brilliant diamond. They are 99 mirrors reflecting the light of the one into the chaotic reality of our everyday human lives. Instead of letting my mind get pulled into shirk, I use these names throughout my day to label what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling, to anchor myself back into the eminence of creation. When I step outside onto my property in the morning and feel that deep, quiet stillness before the world wakes up, I name it As-Salam, the source of peace. When I look at my children, or when I look out here right now and feel that tender wave of connection, I label it Al-Wadud, the infinite loving. And when I walk through our church doors and I look out at these beautiful sanctuary windows, at the trees, the sunlight, and the vibrant life just outside, my heart says, Al-Jamil, the radiance of beauty. In Islamic thought, there is a teaching that God is beautiful and loves beauty. When we allow ourselves to be stopped dead in our tracks by the majesty of nature, we aren't just looking at trees, we are witnessing Al-Jamil expressing itself through leaves and sky. These are joyful names. They are easy to welcome. But what happens when life breaks us? If there is no sacred and no profane split, if everything is a manifestation of the one, then we have to make room for what we would consider the shadow names too. Names like Al-Mudhil, the humiliator, the abaser. That is a terrifying name, isn't it? Why would we ever want to honor a name like that? Let me tell you why. Several years ago, in my second career, I was running a brand and marketing consultancy. I was thriving. I had doubled my income from the year before. I was entering my third year. I was growing my team. And then COVID hit. In the middle of all of that uncertainty, I got caught up with some high-level business coaches. And over several months, not several years, I ended up paying those coaches tens of thousands of dollars. They took advantage of me in ways that felt devastating, even if they weren't strictly illegal. It broke me. I was embarrassed. I was deeply ashamed. My self-confidence was completely decimated. Eventually, I discovered I wasn't alone. I talked to peer after peer and realized that almost everyone I knew in this industry had a story just like mine. Sometimes the numbers were higher. It was happening everywhere. Knowing that I wasn't alone did help soothe the sting, but the humbling was already done. If you're familiar with the tarot, I was pulling the Tower card at least once a week during this time. Yeah, see, you guys know. Al-Mudhil had entered my life, and it felt like it was actively ripping and tearing everything I had built. But looking back, that brutal dismantling was the greatest gift that I never asked for. Because being brought to my knees forced a deep, radical reckoning inside of me. I went on a relentless deep dive into business ethics, emotional intelligence, and what it actually meant to live authentically. Not authentic as an excuse to fly off the handle whenever I felt like it, but authentic to my deepest core values. I went back to school. I got certified in emotional intelligence coaching twice. I earned a credential in business ethics from Cornell University, and I earned a degree in social psychology. And ultimately, that humbling gave me the clarity and the courage to walk away from the marketing industry entirely. I stepped into audiobook narration of all things. No performance background whatsoever. I eventually founded my own audio publishing company, and it brought me here to this community standing before you today. At the time, Al-Mudhil felt like sheer destruction, but looking through the lens of oneness, Al-Mudhil was mercy in disguise. It ground my small, ego-driven illusions of control to dust so that something far realer, far more grounded, and far more aligned could be built in its place. That is the power of the 99 names. They teach us that nothing in this life is profane. The beauty of nature is a portal to the divine. The joy of love is a portal to the divine. And yes, even the painful, humbling dismantling of our egos is a portal back to the one. When we name what we are experiencing, we stop fighting reality. We stop worshiping our small, temporary pain, and we begin to see the hand of the infinite in everything. When we begin to see the divine in both the breathtaking beauty of Al-Jamil and the painful humbling of Al-Mudhil, it forces us to re-examine how we categorize our world into good versus bad or sacred versus evil. In a universe defined by oneness, there is truly nothing that is inherently profane. There are things that hurt us, certainly. Tornadoes, wildfires, illness, these cause real human suffering. But they are nature expressing its raw elemental force. They aren't evil. Even the disruptions we create in society aren't inherently profane. Think about technology evolving. When a job disappears because the technology behind it becomes outmoded, like moving from coal to renewable energy, for example. That shift isn't inherently good or evil. Technological advancement and ecological evolution are natural parts of a changing world. A coal worker losing their livelihood isn't suffering from an evil world. They are caught in the gears of transition. So where does human failure actually live then? Where do we cross the line into what we might then call profane? It isn't the changing of the technology. It's in how we treat each other through the change. When a society embraces renewable energy to heal the planet, but completely abandons the coal workers, failing to offer retraining, safety nets, or a path forward, that is where we fail. When we treat human beings as disposable side effects of progress, when we treat nature as a disposable side effect of progress, we are committing an ethical failure. And this brings us to a foundational concept in Islamic ethics, one you may have heard me talk about before: the role of the Khalifa, stewardship or trusteeship. In the second verse from our reading today from Surah Ar-Rum, we heard that the dazzling diversity of our languages, our colors, and our expressions is a divine sign. Oneness never demanded flat uniformity. Creation loves variety. Diversity is how the infinite shows off its infinite nature. As human beings, we were not placed on this earth to be conquerors or exploiters of that diversity. We were appointed as khulufa, trustees, stewards, caretakers of this interconnected web. If everything around us is a living, breathing expression of the divine, then the closest thing to true profanity is treating any part of creation as disposable. When we exploit the earth until it burns, when we indulge in bigotry against different types of people or languages, when we build economic systems that cast people aside when their labor is no longer convenient, we're committing shirk. We are looking at a sacred part of the whole and declaring, you have no value. Our job as khulafa, as Unitarian Universalists, committed to our seventh principle, is to fiercely honor the web. Stewardship means realizing that when technology shifts, we build bridges for the people affected. Stewardship means that we protect the planet, we protect the workers too. It means realizing that caring for each other isn't just good politics or polite ethics, not just being a good person. It is a sacred act of worshiping the one by honoring every single part of the web. Earlier this summer, during our Blue Boat Home service with Camp Beagle, Sarah Devlin Trumbull, our director of Lifespan Faith Formation, asked our congregation a beautiful question. She asked us, "What does awe feel like to you?" I've been carrying that question with me in my heart ever since. And as I've reflected on it through the lens of my beliefs and my faith, I realized what that feeling is for me. To me, Awe is the sensation of coming as close as a human being possibly can to touching the ultimate mystery, the 100th name. It happens in those fleeting, transcendent moments when I witness one of the divine names in action, when I feel As-Salam in the quiet morning, when I see Al-Jamil through our sanctuary windows, or when Al-Wadud rushes through me as I look at my family, or when I allow myself to travel deep into that feeling of awe and truly embrace it. When I'm standing at the edge of a high canyon, looking down into the vastness, when I'm standing on the beach, looking out at the ocean, the only person for miles as the sun begins to creep over the horizon. Or even on a simple morning, on my own porch, I'm holding my cup of tea. It's quiet, except for the sounds of nature. And there's a stillness in the air that feels charged, still, yet humming with energy. In those moments, it feels as if my consciousness could physically reach out and touch the 100th name. And I get the sense that if I ever did succeed in touching it, if a finite human being could actually grasp that infinite reality, that energy would thread through every single cell in my body and completely unravel me in pure ecstasy. Because of our nature as finite mortal beings, that 100th name will forever remain unknowable to us. We cannot hold infinity in a finite cup. But oh, those moments when we reach out and almost touch it, how very beautiful they are. That sensation tells me that even if we never fully arrive, even if the 100th name remains as unfathomable as I believe it to be, we must never stop reaching. Because that 100th name is the ultimate truth. What that truth means will look and feel a little different to every single person sitting here today and joining us on Zoom. It will look different to every single person at every single moment of time. But how magnificent is it that even the attempt to reach for it makes us more alive, more compassionate, more human. The pursuit itself is sacred. As far as I know, I am the only Muslim in the congregation. But I did not step up to this pulpit today to try to convert you to a doctrine or ask you to adopt an unfamiliar creed. I shared this with you because Unitarian Universalism is built on a radical, beautiful truth. That we don't need to share a creed to share a sacred path. My hope today is that by sharing how I move through the world, we can move the needle together, shifting from mere tolerance of one another's paths to an active, awe-filled, joyous acceptance. To see that when we look past the surface labels, the surface descriptions, the surface illusion, we are all reaching toward the exact same mystery. So as we go forth into our week, may we stop rushing. May we stop worshiping the small, anxious idols of our daily routines. May we have the courage to name the sacred everywhere we see it, in the quiet mornings, in the staggering beauty of nature, in the painful humblings, and in the faces of each other. And may we continue to reach out together, bowing before the infinite, beautiful oneness that holds us all. Amen, and blessed be. Thank you.